public servant, civic duty. Now, when I ran in 2014, it was a big challenge. I didn't come in saying I knew everything. I even actually said that I'd be drinking through a fire hose. And it's true. Anybody that seeks this office, no matter what office you seek, you will be drinking through a fire hose. And as citizens, it's our duty. I used to be in that seat as a citizen. I got it from the rumor mill. I got it from the paper. I didn't actually do my own research to get the information. And as a citizenry, we need to be more informed. Don't get it from a third party. And I say that regardless of who you are, what position you hold, is because when you're more informed, you make better decisions. And I've seen a lot from my office where there's just so much outside. And when I ran in 2014, even though Mike won, I ran in 15, and one of the first things I did, and it was mentioned tonight about the county webpage, we put it all out there for you. Right now, you can pull up your phone. You can pull up minutes from the court. Any actionable item that was done in court, it's there for you to look at. So there shouldn't be any misrepresentation as far as what has been presented to court. Now, economic development. If we're not growing as a community, we're dying. In the past 7 years, the census that just came out, we had an uptick. So we actually did have growth in population. But more importantly, we have to diversify our industry. And in Southwest One, it was a success. It's still a success. We have showed Southwest One the companies that are interested coming to our community. One of the biggest issues is the labor force. People wanting to work. Well, that's something that you and I, how do we get somebody to want to work? It is a real issue. The trade industry. These companies are not going to come here because of elected officials or good people. They're going to come here because they want skilled labor. They want people who can actually do the work. And that's a community working together. And since I've been in office, we've done that. You can go out off 641, you can see it. The amount of energy and the amount of time that it takes to learn, to get all the information in 2016. And the people that really know me, I don't have a problem talking about the tough issues. Because being a leader in this county, you better be ready. You have to make tough decisions. If I make decisions because you're my buddy, that's not why I ran. So if I make decisions that's not going to benefit us as a community, then that's my fault. But I have to make tough decisions, and I'll make those tough decisions. But if you look at the legislation that I have brought to the fiscal court, it's not one man voting. There's 4 of us. And the legislation has passed. The percentage of what I have brought to the court is because the work was done, the information was shared, hours. You can ask any one of these commissioners. There's times where we have spent plus 3 hours, recess for bathroom breaks, because I like to just go. But we have put a lot of effort into making the legislation to where the informed voters, the 4 of us, we get all the information. 911, nobody likes to talk about it, but there's a lot of talk going about it. Folks, 2016, I did a lot of homework. I got invited down to Paducah. I sat in a meeting. I wasn't here in 2010 when KSP gave their presentation, but I went. I sat in. I invited other elected officials to come down. They came down. They got to hear. And I walked up saying, this is more than just going here or going there. This is a state issue. I was awarded in 2020 as leadership for 911. We solved for the state the actual funding mechanism. Nobody wanted to touch it. They'd rather just reach in your pocket and pull more money out of it. I'm a taxpayer. When I actually got to sit in that seat and see what actually is happening with 911 across the state, I'm not going to do that to you. I'll take the tough issues, bring it to the court, put it on the table, we'll discuss it, and let the votes fall where they may. That's as simple as it is. And what we've done here in Marshall County with 911 is we went to the next level, which is NG 911. It's a benefit to us. There's 115 certified PSAPs in the state. And when you travel, now the state certifies them. If you travel from one community that has a certified PSAP, because not every community has a PSAP, the service is not the same. And some of your smaller communities that are more challenged, those individuals that live in those communities, they pay more because it's a vendor-driven business. Now, we've heard a lot about the director. We did. We hired him. We paid him $80,000, and we're getting a deal. I'm not going to say the community I didn't open records with, but I know. I went and got the information. A consultant, if you hired a consultant to do what this man did, $1.2 million is what he has saved us. A neighboring county, just to do an RFP. Does everybody know what a request for a proposal is? A neighboring county. In 2017, I had that same conversation with the engineering firm from Florida. $25,000 just to do an RFP, an RFI. He's done 4 RFPs and 6 RFIs. And when you look at those costs and a request for proposal, you're not getting anything other than information. It costs this community $14,000. And then you add into the grants that he's brought to this community. Folks, who all has a cell phone? Everybody does, right? Where does that money go? It goes to the state. If we're not up in Frankfurt getting that money and bringing it back to our community, then that's on us. But we have gone to Frankfurt, we have submitted grants, and we brought that money back to our community. We've actually saved money, and we were very blessed that this gentleman came to our community. And some of us, the way we've treated this man and his wife, should be ashamed of yourselves. Seriously. It is not representation of this community. I grew up here. Marshall County there's a select few. And it's just not what we need to have representing this community. And I'll fight that every day of the week. It's not fair, and I don't support it. People that know me know that I bring issues to the table. We've had a lot of discussion. Infrastructure. The fiscal court does not own a water district. We don't own, we've kind of taken in a sewer district. But when you look at the expansion on infrastructure, Benton's infrastructure, millions of dollars. And as Commissioner Collins said in court, we don't get 1 penny off of it for revenue. We have expanded Hardin's infrastructure, Benton's infrastructure, water districts. And it's because one thing I found in 14, I didn't really know this. When I was knocking doors, a large percentage, close to 40%, of our citizens do not have access to potable water. Since I've been in office, we have been getting water out to folks. $6 million in ARPA monies. But here's the thing. The fiscal court can sit there and throw monies on the table, but it's not our infrastructure. And if the entities that own the infrastructure are not preparing or repairing their infrastructure to where we can expand, it's only going to cost us money. So I make the decisions because I'm a taxpayer, and I do my homework, and I look into the details so that I can bring it to the court so that the 4 of us have the best information on the table to make decisions. And I'm going to run again. I'd look for your vote, and I would still continue the same initiative. So thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Spraggs, it'll be your turn to respond to the first question. Concerning the 911 dispatch center, what percentage was paid for by grant funds? And if the pending tax assessment on meters was not to be ruled legal, what funding mechanism would be utilized to continue making payments or paying off the cost of the 911 center?
Well, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know right off what percentage was paid with grant funds. I don't have that information in front of me. I can tell you this, if the meter fee, repeat that again on the meter fee.
If it's not held to, doesn't meet muster, of course it's being challenged in court.
Okay.
How would the funding be replaced that would be generated?
if it does fail in court, the budget that was voted on will not go into place, which I hope that doesn't happen. So at that point, we would have to look at what the actual cost on it will be, because all I have to base that on is the projected, which it was taken from 897 to 1,924,000. Voted against that. The salaries are off the charts, and a lot of the line items in the budget are off the charts. I did not support that then. I will not support that going forward.
Okay, what percentage of the 911 dispatch center is paid for by grants? And if the meter assessment does not pass legal muster, where would revenues come to make up the difference?
Okay. The multi-facility, actually, if everyone remembers, in 2018, we had a fire. 10,000 square foot facility burnt. Insurance, we got 1.2 million. The bid that came in to build the multi-facility, and when I say multi-facility, it's because the building that burnt actually only housed the maintenance. It became a catch-all for all other agencies, but it housed the maintenance department. So it gave us a great opportunity to build a new facility, 911 on the end, maintenance on the other end, and the clerk's office, we designed them specifically to where they don't have to get out in the rain when it comes time to check the voter machines. So it's all designed for the clerk's office. So you have 3 agencies that use that multi-facility. The multi-facility was a bid of $2.4 million. The fee, I've talked to judges across the state. You've got water meters. Now, I got an electric meter. Can you imagine, or I actually live on a well, I got a well. Could you imagine if I put a fee on you, on your water meters, the criticism that I would get, the judge is putting a fee on you, but not himself. And not only that, the numbers. We had 6,700 landlines, which are declining. We lost $100,000 during COVID in 2020. So the landlines declined. We jump out of the frying pan into the fire with the water meters. We averaged about 8,000 water meters. It doesn't solve the problem. So when we looked at electric meters would get us up to about 18 to 20,000 meters. But nobody wanted to do that. The first person in our representative's office after we passed it was lobbyists. Lobbyists in Frankfurt. The electric company lobbyists were up there because they knew if we put this in place, it solves all these counties. You've got counties in Lincoln County, Garrett County, they got sued. Campbell County, they got sued. All these counties got sued by trying to solve a funding mechanism that the state has already laid out there for us. But as elected officials, most elected officials don't want to make the tough decision to make it better for you. We're talking about 911. We're not talking about, another service like getting food off the shelf. This is 911, where when you call 911, you have an emergency. The funding mechanism, we won the first leg. Judge Russell gave us a win, and we knew it. The gentleman that is our attorney represented the counties at the state Supreme Court, and he won. We knew we were going to win this case, and we're going to win this case. It's a good argument, and the statute is on our side. The 23rd Amendment, who knows what that is? Slavery. That's their position. Do you know your school tax? Go home, check your electric bill. You'll see a school tax. That's a pass-through tax on the utilities to you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll stay handy. You go first next year. Okay, specifically, the issue of county water, extending potable water to the entire county has come up. Discuss specific plans. How would you like to see that expanded, and would it be possible to include all homes in the county?
Again, the utilities, the water companies, you got North Marshall, you got Benton Water, you got Hardin, you got Johnson Creek, and you got Calvary City. So these water districts, the fiscal court does not manage them. We do appoint Johnson Creek and North Marshall, but it's their infrastructure. They manage it. They manage the budget. Now, monies that we have gotten over the years, since I've been in office, we have put towards expanding some of these districts. It is going to be a challenge. You've got just right now $6 million. $6 million to you and I, that's a lot of money, right? Doesn't go far when it talks about water or sewer. But one bite at a time on that elephant. That's the way we need to look at this. We expanded Jonathan Creek, $700,000. We're getting ready to expand Hardin. We just approved the 2 projects, $1.1 million. Benton, Oak Level, that's about a $4.5 million. So we have put monies on the table, but if you're talking about not going after grants, not getting monies, we're gonna have to, again, look at the budget, and quite honestly, we've got to free up monies. 911, we free up that subsidy. We put a budget in place for you to see what the fee is, and here's the thing, you know, Kevin voted against it, but he said he wanted a $5 fee. The way we designed it is where if other counties come on, Lyon County, if they come on, it's 11% of operations for the 911. Well, what do you think they now can do with the fee for electric? They can get the monies off the fee, bring it to the operational demand that they bring, which is 11%, our fee goes down. So when you get to the consolidation of it, it actually reduces the fee over time. And when you free up the subsidy with 911 or the jail, we got subsidies going everywhere. But when you free up the monies we already got, then you can start looking not only water, but broadband. Broadband, $26 million for this community. And there's people out there who has water. Who's on a municipality who has water?
30 seconds.
They want broadband. So as elected officials, we still have people that don't have water. I say, we run as slow as our fastest runner. That's how we move. We can't forget our folks that don't have access to bottled water. Thank you.
Mr. Spraggs.
I voted against the sewer expansion at Draftonville. It has approximately 8 paying customers. It will take 451 years for it to pay for itself, and that doesn't include maintenance along the way. That would likely add another 20 years to that number. That, along with the fact when I asked Chad McCann, the engineer, the question, would it accommodate a hotel? The answer is no. Go back and watch the meeting, it's all on there. I also stated in court, and it's on video, I would rather see that money go towards much needed water projects. Why? Got this on my phone if anybody wants it emailed to me. That is a white sink in West Marshall. Would you want your child or grandchild or yourself to brush your teeth in that, take a bath in that, or anything else? No, you wouldn't, and I wouldn't. That $1.3 million would have ran 7.5 miles of line extension. That's how I feel about our water. It's important. I watched neighbors down the road in their late 70s have to go get a loan for a well. They could see a water tower from their house. It's not about having the money, it's where you're spending the money. That's important.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Spraggs, your turn to go first, and here's our next question. Explain your position on the vote concerning the appeal concerning the retirement issue.
The retirement issue, we got a bill for unpaid retirement. pertaining to the sheriff's office, and it related to hazardous duty officers whom had already retired. And they were saying that we owed retirement on those officers. And I consulted with the county attorney on this, getting as much information as I could, looked at the KRS on this. To me, the KRS was clear. We did not owe that. It clearly stated you do not pay it on already retired officers. So I made the motion for the county attorney to file an appeal. And the county attorney filed a 7-page appeal, and we won the appeal. There was no wrongdoing. There was nothing owed. I saved us $350,000. My opponent voted no. Judge Neal.
Okay. First off, the KPPA, you've got Sears, a year and a half ago, the retirement system, if you remember, separated out. CERS separated out. This is a KAR, Kentucky Administrative Regulation, not a KRS. The KAR, the regulation is not in the KAR. And it's the same argument that I had attorneys already look at with KSP regarding the KAR with the management user agreement, which is in the KAR. So when you look at the Kentucky Administrative Regulation, that's the law. If it's in there, you follow it. If it's not in there, you don't follow it. And that's the whole principle of the argument. And that argument was actually brought to the table. That was what the argument was, is that the regulation, and let's not forget whose responsibility it is to fill out the retirement forms. Not mine, not the fiscal court. It's the sheriff or the jailer or whoever has hazardous duty or non-hazardous duty. If you have, in this case, it's hazardous duty. You hire somebody, that's a totally different employer. That issue got thrown into my lap, and I fixed it. KPPA said, this is what you need to do. In the month of May, we were given 30 days, and we got the proper documentation to the agency, said, here's the issue, because some employees, the proper forms, these are regulations that KPPA requires. The proper forms were given to them. The forms were filled out on employees. Other employees weren't filled out. I don't know why. That's not my job. That's not the fiscal court's job. This issue came to us. So when it came time to fixing the issue, that's what I did. I administratively made a decision, advised the agency, you have to fill this stuff out. But the real issue is this. Councils for KPPA or CERS or the fiscal court do not vote. The four of us on the fiscal court vote. The board at the state, those board members, I reached out to KPPA. I asked the question in court, has this regulation been changed? And the question was not answered. What was said is they're talking about it. I reached out to KPPA, and the KPPA board hasn't seen it. Marshall County, since I've been in court, 20 years ago, we had to pay for a retirement issue 3 or 4 years ago. So this issue, to be resolved, you have to litigate it. And that's not uncommon with KPPA. You got to take it to the courts, not two attorneys sending a letter back and forth.
Okay. Judge Neal, your turn to go first again. Your compensation or salary is determined by the state of Kentucky. Please explain the funding mechanism or the decisions made regarding salaries and compensation for the county commissioners.
So what the question is referring to is the constitutional elected officers. Myself, the sheriff, the jailer, the clerk, we don't actually have a say in what the state sets our rate at. When you're talking about the commissioners, and I've looked at this when I first came into office, I used McCracken County. McCracken County has a population of about 65,000 people. At that time, when I looked at it, McCracken County paid their commissioners $24,000. What had happened over the years in Marshall County is the fiscal court would take the rate that was sent down for the 4 constitutional elected officers, as I just explained, and they would add it to the commissioners. And what had happened, based off of that formula, is that you got Marshall County, where we have commissioners making about $36,000 with benefits, and McCracken County, since 2016, when I looked into this, has raised their commissioner salaries to $28,000. And so when you look at the population that they govern, Marshall County had about 180 uptick in the census that we just had. We're about 31, just shy of 32,000 people. It doesn't make any sense. So when I was in, I was like, we don't need to pass that on. We've got to manage the budget, and that's what I've done. I've made tough decisions. My fellow commissioners, I had to sit with them and tell them, I'm gonna put you in a salary position where you need to be comparable to a county with the population. It's just, I mean, I'm a taxpayer. It makes sense to me. It should make sense to other taxpayers. Why are we paying $36,000 with benefits when we have twice the size of the county? To me, it was simple to make that decision because it made sense to me as a taxpayer. If we were making $36,000 for our commissioners with benefits, a lot of people don't know this. When I worked in the civilian sector, I had to pay out of pocket for my health care. That's one of the biggest tools that we go out to people and say, come work for Marshall County, is we cover not only the individual, but the family. How many people out in the community
30 seconds.
either have to go find insurance or only the employee gets insured and not the family? We've got great benefits that we offer to our people, but they work 40 hours a week and they work a lot of hours. So that's why I made that decision.
Thank you.
Mr. Spraggs.
The state determines the compensation for the judge executive. What mechanism is used to set the compensation for the commissioners?
Right. The state does set that. They just set an additional 7% raise to that position. First year we were in office, the judge did try to cut our salaries, which the only time salaries can be cut is the last term in office. That's the only time they can be changed up or down. We've never taken a raise. I'll tell you this, for what we've been through and had to endure for the last 3.5 years, 36,000 is a joke. I'm just gonna tell you. And the hours and hours and sleepless nights and dealing with budgeting, with a pandemic, tornado, I'm out an hour after it's over. I come home about 28 hours later. I take this job very serious and I do earn my money. I promise you that. If I didn't, I'd step down. The other elected officials have not had a raise either. The coroner, the county attorney, and they all agreed to that. You know, we've been through some trying times with the pandemic, the uncertainty, now the tornado, but to say something's overpaid, I guess that's in the eye of the beholder. So I'll say this, the commissioners that do this job, if they're doing it right, it involves a lot of time, a lot of headache, stress, sleepless nights. If I get a call from a citizen on anything, I could take the easy path and call Roy at the road department. Say, hey, this problem, I'm gonna shoot you a photo of it, take a look at it. I don't do that. I get in my vehicle, I go to their house, to their business, whatever the situation may be. I meet with them, I discuss the problem. I determine if it's worthy of calling the road department or whomever out. It could be a situation where it's someone other than the road department. But I do the job, I do it right, I'll do the same thing if elected judge.
Okay, once again, Commissioner Spraggs, does the Marshall County Fiscal Court currently fund any portion of the operation of the ambulance service? And is the ambulance service close to being self-supporting at this time?
We fund, I believe I've got this right, we fund the equipment on the ambulance service. They take care of the personnel. Are they close to being self-sufficient at this time? That would probably require a meeting with David Fuqua with the hospital. We haven't had any discussion on that as a court. They do a great job. Some of the equipment we have to vote on, it's like everything else. I've got a lot of surprises while I've been in office on the cost of things. And, right after the tornado, I was at a resident that had fallen off his roof, and I just happened to be coming by on my side-by-side and stopped, and he had injuries pretty severe, and I waited with him while the ambulance got there, and the, I think it's called, I'm probably wrong on this, striker lift component that we voted on. I was very proud to have cast that vote when I seen that in use. So I think we've got a great staff at our ambulance service. As far as I know, as far as I'm concerned, the relationship currently with the hospital is working. I would much rather, as a business owner, if I had the option of managing equipment or personnel, that's kind of a no-brainer for me. Thank you.
The years ago, actually when I first came in office, years ago they started rotating out EMS. EMS used to actually be the CNA, the county has it, the employees that were EMTs, paramedics, county employees, as they would retire, the hospital actually would hire. We have totally rotated out all county employees as EMS. So the hospital actually manages the employees of the ambulance service. The contract that the fiscal court has, we've got a contract that is, 15, 20 years old. $202,000 is what we contract. Tried to bring it up for discussion in 2016, didn't go anywhere. The issue is that what we wanted to look at was the monies that are coming in because the county has a CNA. Do we have the best contract on the table? Because the amount of monies, just from a FAR review, we were looking at, there was quite a bit of monies coming in, and it was going in to either the hospital or the actual ambulance service. So that's what we wanted to look at. Do we have the best contract on the table? And now with House Bill 777, I believe the actual Senate may have just passed it. My association that I sit on, I'm on the legislative board, we had the compromise. And the CNA, when you get into the bigger cities, we're rural Kentucky. And when you get into those big cities in northern Kentucky, the Golden Triangle is real. I've seen it. They actually have a lot more power with legislation. So when it comes to our ambulance service, we provide the equipment in that contract. The striker load system, Brian's come to me. He's our ambulance director. He needed training. We put monies on the table to train the employees to get EMT certified and try to get them up to paramedic. Because again, we want the best folks in that vehicle when you call for an emergency. Not only the striker load system, but the ventilators. We used to have the old ventilators. Try doing CPR. If you've never done CPR, try doing it to Nashville or to Paducah. Physically, it's gonna make both parties suffer. So we got digital ventilators. It just made sense. It's good equipment. Brian came to the court, asked, and all of these initiatives, he went and got grants for. And again, the monies that leaves our community that goes to the state, we go to the state, we put grants in, and we bring those monies back so we can give the best equipment that we can for you when you have an emergency.
Judge Neal again, your turn to go first. I'm gonna get y'all exercise tonight. One person submitted the question. In their opinion, they feel that the tax to support the Marshall County Library System is disproportionate compared to what supports the fire departments. What is your opinion? Elaborate, please.
Well, real quick, the library board is its own entity as a taxing district. We don't manage the library. Obviously, this facility is a new library. Does anybody know how much this costs us as taxpayers? $6 million. Close to $7 million. Haven't heard a peep. But the reality is that there is legislation because the county judges across the state want to change it. The judge executive by statute appoints board members. All the boards that are taxing districts in the county, the judge appoints, the fiscal court approves or doesn't approve. The way the library board works is they submit names to the state then submits the names to me. It's typically 2 names, and they say, based off of statute, that you have the authority to appoint, here are the 2 names. If I were to say, you know what, the fiscal court, we don't want to appoint either person, then the state picks. That's been an issue since Elkins over in Callaway County has been fighting that. There's legislation on the table right now to get that changed so that as elected officials that you elect, we appoint the people on the boards. And that's the representation that you should have. So the fiscal court really doesn't have a say on that tax. It's set by the library board. Now, since we're talking about tax and I got some time, let's talk about the tax that you see on your utility bill. Who all sees the school tax on their utility bill? Okay, where do we pay our school tax? On our property taxes. It's a pass-through tax. The state allows the school board to put a 3% tax on you, or actually on the utilities. The utilities, and this is the electric companies, they pass it through to you. So when you see that on your bill, okay, I wrote a little memo on my check and I said, I'm not paying your tax. They said, we're going to shut your electricity off. But then they're suing us over the 23rd Amendment. It's a pass-through tax. Most people don't realize that. There's so many things that I have learned by sitting in this seat. As a taxpayer, it really gets me upset because I'm like, wow, we are really not paying attention to what's going on from the federal level all the way down to the state level into our own community. And I put all that out there so that you can be aware. So, thank you.
He pretty well covered that as far as us not having much, if any, control over the taxing districts. That includes the library, the 109, fire departments. But here's what we do have control over: the board appointments. My opinion, here's what needs to happen with the board appointments. They should be advertised, every single one of them. You might be surprised the qualified people that we would have that would step up for those positions if they were aware of it. Every single one of them should be out there for the community. We have some brilliant minds in this community in all different fields, and we might be surprised who would step forward other than the select few that are handpicked. And that's all I've got to say on that subject.
Next question, Commissioner Spraggs, your turn to go first. Do you support term limits for any public official? Why or why not?
I think there definitely should be term limits on a federal level and probably on a state level. I think if people are in office too long, there's too many things they're capable of doing that's not in the best interest of their constituents. As far as a local level goes, I hadn't put much thought into that. We certainly see it on a national level with, they're still in there serving 80, 90 years old. It's like, give me a break. I mean, that's just, that's ridiculous. I think if you're called to serve and you are sincere about that, I think you will know when it's time to step away. And I can assure you, if I'm elected, I have no intentions of doing that for 20 years. I mean, locally, should there be term limits? I don't know that I have an opinion on that, but I think people who are in, for the right reason, they'll know when it's time to step away without the people deciding. Thank you.
Folks, the answer to that question is you. You're the voter, you end the term, or you keep them in. It's that simple. If we continue to put people in for 20, 30, 40 years, you gotta look at that district when you get to the federal level. I mean, it is what it is. But the voters have the ability to end terms or to keep people in. I wanna go back to what was previously said. The library board is not the 109. The 109 is the actual refuse district. And there is a tax, and I'm gonna talk about the 109. We hear this discussion of double tax. Look at section 4 of the actual, what was passed in court with the ordinance. Section 4 talks about the 911 fee and the double fee. Who lives in Benton right now? Who actually resides in Benton? You pay a franchise. What is it? Pick up your trash. $11. You also pay a refuse tax. Calvert City has their own trash pickup, so they don't pay the refuse tax. This year it just went down. I think it's 0.085 on tangible, and real is 0.80. When we really want to talk about this is good legislation here. Okay, as trash comes into our community, and it's actually taken out the waste path, we have a host agreement. I voted, and the court voted, to increase that because for years they were getting 2%. That was about $60,000, which was coming into our budget. When we found out that we could put it at 6.25%, that's what I pushed for. We have doubled that. We're bringing in about $120,000, and all the monies go to the road department. Now, what I suggested is that the trash, when you franchised in Benton, your trash, who picks it up? Republic? They take it out of county. We're losing monies. If they went with Waste Path, which was the lowest bid, the trash from Benton, which would be quite a bit, would go to the landfill, and I would earmark those dollars. I would bring that legislation to the court and say, look, let's take those monies, give it back to Benton, because there are specific things that you can do with it. Pave roads, clean roads, and hazmat response. That's it. That's good legislation. The other way is interlocal agreements. The days of calling and saying, hey, go do this, it's not legal. You can't do that. But that's good legislation. Benton knew about that.
30 seconds.
And they franchised it and they went with Republic. If you're a Benton resident, try to get that changed, because that is a great way to put monies back into your streets and your sidewalks to actually maintain what you have. And that's how that host agreement that I pushed for, and the court saw the good legislation and they passed it. Thank you.
Okay, Judge Neal, your turn again. If reelected, and I'll reverse this when Commissioner Spraggs comes to the podium. If reelected, how would you work to foster a sense of unity among the fiscal court, among the various units of county government, and various state agencies that interact with Marshall County?
Everybody's heard the term team effort. Everybody has to be on board. The one thing that the fiscal court has to manage, and there's a lot, but the one main thing is the county purse. And just like the legislation, if you go back and you look at all the legislation that I have brought from my office to the fiscal court, which I have not, when it comes to the commissioners that bring legislation to my office and communicate issues that they hear out in the county, Justin Lamb's one. He's brought a lot of issues to the table. Monty's actually come by the office. Commissioner Spraggs been in my office twice. I asked him to come see me one time, and the other issue was with Travis Construction. That's it. No legislation brought to my office. That if you're gonna be a representative of the fiscal court, it's 4 of us. And if you don't bring any legislation to the table, then how are you gonna benefit your district or the county? I mean, think about that. 3 years. I've made tough decisions. Some of you, as far as the agencies, it's doing the same thing over. I see a lot of fire chiefs here. Tonight, I spent, before this meeting, the fire channel's down. During the tornado, we had a fire department on an island because of a DMR system. It was down. The 2 agencies couldn't talk. Our infrastructure across the board. We have to accept the fact that, folks, we work for the taxpayers. Those fire departments are taxing districts. I can only do my part to bring legislation to the table. If there's backbiting and not working together, it's all of us. We have to work together. We had an issue. I had a grandmother who came to my office. All right, I used to sit on the K-beams board. Had a pediatric cardiac arrest. Young child, her granddaughter died. They're doing CPR. In order to do an actual assistant agency to come in, you have to follow K-beams. And this isn't a dig on anybody. It's just the facts. If you're going to have AED, the emergency services are governed by state laws, and K-beam governs that. They could not call out the agency that was actually where the young child was dying because they weren't in that mutual aid agreement. We got the whole county to participate on that so that we'd never see this again. And that's why we got the devices to where it would free up that second EMT to help do chest compressions. But arguing in the driveway, the grandmother came to my office. I was furious for her because of what she witnessed. We have to work together.
How could, elected to the position, what would you do to foster unity among the fiscal court, among the county officials, and the state officials that interact with Marshall County?
Okay, this award I received in 2015 says a lot about me as a person, I think. I was nominated Realtor of the Year. I was elected Realtor of the Year. That has nothing to do with selling a house, a piece of land, or anything else. What it does have to do with is working well with the nearly 100 agents in the board. I'm proud of that. Being a realtor, I say all the time, I've got a different boss every day. I don't care if they're 21 years old and have nothing, or if they're a 75-year-old millionaire. I always tell them, you're the boss. I'll advise you, but you're the boss. And that's how I operate. You bring unity by showing respect. Amen. Period.
Yep.
As far as bringing things to the table, I bring things to the meeting because they have been refused to be put on the agenda. So I learned real quick, address them at the meeting as new business or old business. I can assure you one thing. If I'm judge and somebody wants something on the agenda, it'll be on the agenda. If a citizen wants to speak, they'll be allowed to speak. There'll be a time limit. We all know some long-winded people, Candy, Tracy, so Mike, wherever you are. But anyway, unity is respect and surrounding yourself a good leader surrounds herself with people with diverse perspective who are able to disagree with you without fear of retaliation. That's who I am. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we've put these two gentlemen through about an hour, so this is going to be our capstone question. And Mr. Spraggs, it's your turn to go first on this one. Considering this position that you are seeking, what do you view as the biggest challenge to Marshall County? What do you plan on doing to meet that challenge?
The biggest challenge is getting the out of control spending back under control, uniting everyone in county government, elected officials, our constituents, and I can do that in short order. This county, as I said earlier, will come together at the drop of a hat during a crisis. They'll also come together under proper leadership. Thank you.
And Judge Neal. Question again. Considering the position that you are seeking or seeking to be reelected to, what do you view as the biggest challenge to this county, and what do you plan on doing to meet that challenge?
Folks, if we don't free up cash, if we don't free up what we're already spending, and don't lose focus, 911 was to kill two birds with one stone. We put the next generation 911 in place. When you look at the federal guidelines, the $10 billion that they're putting in, when that goes, we'll have a direct line to request monies to come from the federal level into our 911 center. But it's to also free up that subsidy. If we can't accomplish freeing up the subsidy, dig into your pockets. With the increase in retirement, the increase in everything, you're gonna have to find the monies from somewhere. You can't stand up here. I've heard a lot of people say they want, a lot of wants. When department heads come to me, I tell them, give me your needs and your wants. I'll make darn sure I can bring the needs to the budget, but your wants, we're gonna have to talk about them. And there's been a lot of people that brought wants to me that I just said, you know what, it's not gonna happen this year. But the needs, I've done everything I could as a judge executive to get them the needs. I can't tell you enough. We can get into a who's who. The budget is what the budget is. The key was to put a fee in place to free up already monies that we had. And if that doesn't happen, the money's gonna have to come from somewhere. And we are so heavily dependent on our income tax out of the plants in Calvert. We have one major plant shut down. We're gonna have to make major decisions. So the tough decisions, when I came into office, I knew as I was drinking through that fire hose, I'm gonna have to make tough decisions. And it's everything. Our infrastructure has been dilapidated, and it's not pointing at any one person. It's just the reality. And to fix it, you need monies. I sit on PAC Road. I actually got PAC Road to put monies into the 5 county. I brought hundreds of thousands of dollars to this county outside of our budget. I've gone and got discretionary fundings. I've gone and I've got Delta Regional Authority monies. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Last week in the PAC Road meeting, I just got $100,000 for this county. Resourceful. But you have to understand that alone is not going to solve our problems. We've got issues that we have to fix, or else we're going to be dipping in your pocket. And I'm a taxpayer. And when I sit and I see this, I don't want you dipping into my pocket as a taxpayer. Fix the problems, then come to me. That's my belief. And I would expect you to have the same belief. Fix the problems, and then we can have a discussion if that comes. And I truly believe that the problems can get fixed. Thank you.